Hi everyone, good day. My name is Jayasilen. I'm from Century. Hope you are doing fine today. By the way, you can call me Jay. I hope today with my background on biotechnology, on data, I hope to be able to share a few insight on how data center can manage their environmental impact that involves the e-waste, right? I believe, um, sorry, So I believe the past 2 days you've been hearing a lot of facts and statistics with regards to data center, whereby we know that data centers impact globally, and also that the fact that it is growing rapidly in Malaysia, right? And in fact, that's why we all of you are here, right? And the fact that we are we are having more than 60 data centers in Malaysia tells and growing rapidly tells that the importance of data center is really significant in our day-to-day life. Now, when I was in data industry, we used the term data as data is the next oil, data is the next gold, data is the next currency. Now I'm thinking, if if that's the case, what would data center be? I don't know. I'm living up to your to your imagination, right? But the real substantial question is, how do we continue to develop data centers sustainably? All right, it is almost impossible to do so if we do not have a sustainability framework or guidance, right? And we cannot do this just for the sake of reporting or for namesake, because there's actually real tangible value for organization to embark on sustainability. All right, it helps the organization to put on the right direction, and at the same time, it drives growth for the organization. All right. Now, when it comes to sustainability, there are four key concepts that we have to be aware of. All right. Number one is impact. Second is material topic. Third is due diligence, and fourth is stakeholder. Right? What do we mean by these four key concepts? Now, let's take McKinsey concept, right? Mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive, whereby you list down all the possible impact that your organization can have on the environment, on the economy, as well as people and their human rights. All right. So, and then what you do is that you run a bunch of assessment, you engage with your stakeholders, and then out of the many list of impacts that you identify the most significant impact, and that's what we call as material topic. Let's say you have done your materiality assessment, you have engaged your stakeholder, and then you have identified your material topics. What do you go? Where do you go then? Now, there's an option, there's a way. This is not mandatory, but it's a good start. What you can do is that, for example, this is an example of typical material topics of a data center, right? What you could do is that you can link it to the UN SDGs 17 goals. All right, it doesn't have to be all 17. You can pick and choose what is relevant to the material topic that you have identified. All right, and you can see here that because in 17 SDG goals, there are 249 indicators that you can use as a way to move forward. For example, if one of the material topic is related to climate exchange, and one of 13.2 is actually about greenhouse gas emission. So, okay, I know I need to look into greenhouse gas emission. So there's an indicator how you could relate your material topic, I mean impact that is relevant to your organization to move forward. Now, if you look at this, in this material topic that is related to data centers, I mean, although energy, GHG, and water is significant, you can see there's one element that prevails in all the pillars, which is number 12, responsible consumption and production. Now, we put aside energy and water because that's already, we know about it. But the next most significant consumption is actually relies on the IT asset of a data center, right? And there's many ways that we can manage the sustainability of a IT asset lifecycle. In fact, earlier today we had a panel discussion that talks about how we can improve the performance, reduce the energy consumption, and so on. But I just like to add on to that discussion where, let's say, if you have decommissioned any asset, Don't put it aside for a long time. Don't stockpile it. Reason being is that not only you utilizing the space, which is valuable, you are also losing 3 to 5% of the asset value every month, right? So try to work with a vendor that understand the circular economy concept and able to apply the waste management hierarchy effectively, right? Because the because the fundamentals of a circular economy is actually to reuse, to fuse IT asset management and IT asset disposition together. Because at the core of a circular economy is to reuse the asset as much as possible, refurbish and reuse as much as possible before you even go into recycling, or we call it recovery. The reason being is that recycling is the second last stage before we go into landfill. All right. So you want to prolong the shelf life of IT asset. That's why you try to reuse as much as possible. Now, if we do this right, we could possibly, the secondary material that we get from it, we could meet up to 60% of the production demand of a new electronic waste, new electronic items. All right. But then again, managing e-waste is a challenge by itself. All right, because although it is the fastest growing waste, only 17% are recycled, and even out of the 17%, 80% are managed improperly or not collected properly. And the fact that we are not recycling properly means that we are losing a lot of critical raw materials. For example, aluminum as of 2020 become a critical raw material. All right, and that is the most commonly found material in servers and electronic telecommunication equipment. And but things are looking good for the time being because there's a lot of initiative coming into Malaysia. For example, the DOE is introducing extended producer responsibility. They are also phasing out the partial license because they want to improve the efficiency of e-waste recycling. Right. So, but then again, focusing on the electronic component of a IT asset is not sufficient. You need to have a zero waste framework, because otherwise you will only focus on the e-waste component and the other components will end up in landfill, and we don't want that, right? And if we should look at the holistic approach where we try to recover as much material possible and reuse it into producing new material altogether. Let's say if I were to recycle a battery, I will make sure that as much as possible, at least 90% of the material is used back to produce a new battery, right? And so what's that? How do we then go about to implement a sustainable data destruction and IT asset disposition? Basically, there are many layers, there are many components, but the 5 key components is always reliable data destruction. Second is safe decommissioning. Third is maximize buyback value. Fourth is e-waste compliance, and fifth, something that you may want to find it interesting, is responsible donation. We'll talk about it later. All right. So essentially, when it comes to data center, there's only 3 types of destruction that commonly used. One is shredding. All right. Now, when you do physically destruct, drilling or crushing is not sufficient. You need to shred at least to H5 or E4 level to a specific particle size to be effective. Another option, if you have a magnetic media, you can consider degaussing, but you have to make sure that the degaussing machine is NSA listed. Otherwise, you do not have consistent supply of magnetic power to randomize the magnetic particle in the hard disk. And the most reliable and most sustainable method of all is actually data erasure. What we do is that we overwrite multiple times, so that with random binary data, so that all the data are deleted, wiped out. And we work with a partner, Securace, where they are able to assure 100% erasure. Securace is recognized by Cybersecurity of Singapore, Cybersecurity of Malaysia, and they have done several independent tests to substantiate their assurance. All right. Now, besides data destruction, there's also a few other IT asset disposition best practices that you should look into. Now, mainly is that you should have a proper documentation in terms of having proper serial numbers of your asset that you dispose, certificate of destruction, all right? You should also comply with international standard. Like earlier today, we spoke about you need to comply to international standard. So disposal itself has several international standards that you want to comply with. And you want to also have a visibility of your project from the day that you start collection until the day that you dispose. You would want to have that visibility, right, without compromising on the chain of custody. And last but not least, you may want to have the flexibility or the option whether this asset I want to recover, recycle, or I want to resell into the secondary market or even donate. Because you have to understand waste falls under scope 3. We discussed during the panel discussion. So the more you generate waste, the more your scope 3 emission will be. So you try to reduce the waste by either donating or even selling back into the secondary market. All right? And there's also a discussion, there's also new scope 4 is coming out, but it's still in very preliminary discussion, all right? And these are some of our past projects that we have done, where we have worked with some telco companies, where we did the decommissioning of data centers, and we provided environmental impact analysis so that they are able to incorporate this into their sustainability report. So the report basically covers the amount of greenhouse gas that has been reduced, the amount of toxic metal has been diverted, and also the possible precious metal that has been recovered. All right. So this is one case where we did for banking, where we have to go to more than 60 locations throughout Malaysia, including Sabah, Sarawak, collect all their IT assets, do on-site destruction, and then generate report within plus minus about a month. All right, and provide with a proper report and certification for their audit purposes. All right, and this is one of our, I would say, my pet project, where we work with foundations like Green Growth Asia to, when we collect this used ITSL laptops and so on, not only assets but also furnitures, and channel it back to schools in Malaysia. You will be surprised to find that the number of, the lack of resources that our schools in Malaysia is facing. So this is some of the initiatives that we do, right? So I guess we all can agree that green data center is no longer a buzzword. It's imperative. It's a global imperative. Now remember, we spoke about data center being the superpower. So you guys are the one who's holding the superpower, I presume. So I just want to leave the presentation with one note. With great power comes with great responsibility. All right. So let us work together to create a sustainable future for the younger generation, for our kids. So that we have to have this kind of discussion more, so that we have a sustainable future. So that's all from my side. And if there's any question, we can have it over lunch later. Thank you.